And it's I understand that process because we create all these illusions to prevent us from remembering who we are, especially when
Yeah,
we went through some deep trauma. And I want to go back to our conversation we had on the beach was I was talking about sexuality and
you can be as
the
direct as you need to be.
yeah, yeah. Um, I was speaking to you about sexuality and I was really shocked at the for lack of a better term or phrase, the amount of I was just shocked by how many men had had sex with other men.
And that's way
And
more common than people
yeah,
admit.
and not through homosexuality either.
Through experimenting.
When I say through homosexuality is that they haven't identified themselves as homosexual. And I
Yeah.
know that's an evolving being, but I understood through my journey that and I explained this to you, and you were very receptive of it, is that um, homosexuality is an avoidance of the father wound of not receiving the love that we need from the father and trying to find it through sexual sexual needs with other men, and this works vice versa in women as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's very hard to comment on that sort of premise in today's day and age now,
yeah,
because it would be perceived as, especially amongst my age group, saying something like that or even suggesting something like that would be seen as phobic. And I think it's very damaging to the conversation and damaging to people for us not to be able to look at the possibility of, you know, there are some people that are born that are gay or homosexual that have both parents that have had a healthy relationship with their mum and their dad, and they just happen to be gay. And I think that is a possibility, but I also don't want to say it is the possibility. I can't comment because I'm not a gay man, you know, but the experiences that I've had and the gay men
yeah,
that I have in my life and that I've met would, uh, I know that they would agree with that statement to some degree, but would also argue it on the other extreme as well, and
yeah,
get very hurt and offended by that. So it's a very delicate conversation to have. Yeah, indeed.
absolutely, very delicate. And I do my best to be as delicate as possible. And the conversation went to the sexual abuse that you have received, and every contact I have come into with men who are either gay or bisexual or don't even identify as anything but have had sexual relation with men is
Mhm.
there has been some kind of abuse from men or women, sexual abuse or emotional abuse.
I
Uh,
mean, I can only speak from my experience
yeah,
on that effect and that what
yeah,
it left with me.
yeah. Are you able to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to expand. It's well, happy again, great
Yeah,
word. Um, I mean, for the benefit of whoever watches this or listens to our podcast, again, I will say it's from my perspective, and it's just based on my experience and things. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I find that when I was from the age of 11 to 15, I was abused by my best friend's father, and it didn't just bang sexual abuse. It didn't just happen like that for me. I was groomed for a long time, and I wasn't the only one that was being groomed. His son was the um, you might have to help me find the word. He was using his
the
son as like
bait.
the bait. Yes, like his son was like the bait. And around the house, things were normalized. Like he'd walk around in underwear, like porn was normalized, like masturbation together was normalized. And then eventually it got to a point where he would become physical with me. And it was so normalized that, like, because I had such a lack of a masculine relationship with my father, that I thought that was the role model I should be following. And a lot of shame comes with that because you feel like you should know better as a young boy. Like, and part of me did know at the time it's not right. What's going on is not right, but it felt right.
Mm.
It felt like I should be doing this. And it got to a point where like I wasn't getting what I needed from my father, and I would go seek it out from the abuse. I didn't see it as abuse. I saw it as love. I saw it as care. I saw it as something that was something that's very perverted and damaging to a young boy. I craved for a long time, even into my late teens and like early adulthood as a young man in my 20s. Like, it's taken a long time to comprehend the emotion of knowing that like it's wrong and that I shouldn't have experienced that, but then also knowing that I used to look for it. I used to put it on myself because I tricked my own mind into thinking, or because of the abuse, or because of many factors, that this was normal. And that also creates a lot of fear for me as I become an older man, that I could have turned into that, because most bullies
Mm.
were bullied. And based on that premise, I feel that most paedophiles were abused.
Exactly.
And that leaves a lot of fear for me. And I know that I would never do that to a child. Like, of course I wouldn't. Like, but that doesn't stop the internal um the internal turmoil of, you're gonna be that dark part of myself saying you're gonna be that. That's exactly what you are. You're abusive. You look for children, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I don't look at children like that. I love children. Like, I've got a niece, I've got three goddaughters. Like, I'm very trusted with children. I've done my courses and things. I've put people through their apprenticeships, and I know that I'm a very safe person for children. But like, in the back of my mind, like, it's
You're
that
afraid.
fear of like, am I doing this because I'm going to be that, or like, uh, I know that my intent is I'm doing this because I don't want any child to feel how I felt, where
Yeah.
I didn't have someone to go to. I didn't have those role models where I could have sat down with them and said, look, this is what's going on. I think this is normal. And I know it's not. Can I have some help? And I just couldn't do that at such a young age. And for a long time, I was angry with my parents. I blamed them, and I shouldn't have done, because I hid it from them, because it was such a normalized thing for me. Like, it became so normal that I would go around there and just offer myself up, quite literally. Um, and then it stopped at around 16. Then I turned 18 and it went to the police. He got found, he pleaded guilty. I was the only one of 18 young lads that came forward, and he got 2 years, was out in a year on good behavior, and he
What
approached me
what
within 6 months.
what made you come forward?
I didn't go forward. What happened was, is one of the other kids' parents went forward. My name got mentioned, and I lied twice. And then the third time I broke down in front of my dad, and my dad made me feel shamed for it. I wasn't allowed to the court date. I wasn't allowed to any of it. Me and my dad have never spoken about it. Me and my mum have only just started touching on those sort of subjects in the last year, maybe 2 years, that, because they're aware that I go to therapy and that I try to look after myself and better myself. And uh, my dad's only just started to soften as a man, from that generation. Like, he was born in the 50s. So um, I won't ever have that conversation with him, ever. I know that won't ever happen. There's a lot of shame there. And I know he probably feels guilty himself that he didn't notice it. His poor boy has been defiled. And it took like years for me to realize that I am not what happened to me. Um, and now it's just a case of like like you say, some things you can't heal. Like this is something I will live with for the rest of my life, but I'm not gonna hold any anger or resentment to my abuser or my parents or anyone else that had an impact on that, because it's now down to me to do what I choose to do with it. And my God, it is not easy. It's not easy by any means. Like I'm 26, I'm still crying about it now, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Still probably
Mm.
gonna tell myself later, like, you weak ass bitch.
No, no, I honor you. I honor you, Oliver. I think you're really brave.
Sorry.
You're really brave.
Yeah. So
This is
then
courage. This is
when it
courage.
comes to thank you. When it comes to like sexuality and things, like when you experience things like that, like I can definitely touch on this from my experience. It makes you question your entire self. Like it just does.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was gay for some time. I thought I was bi, then I was bi curious. I tried things with boys and like men. Like obviously when I say boys, I was still a boy myself, like, you know. Um and then I realized that it wasn't for me. That isn't what I'm about. Like I could sleep with a man, like I still could now, but I couldn't. You know, there's two roles, like top and a bottom. I'm a top. There's no bottom about me, and that's all to do with the fact that I needed power. I needed to feel in control. I needed to reclaim what had happened to me. And you know, there was one guy that I was really close with, and you know, we'd done things together for some time, and I worked through a lot of this stuff with him because it was that space to be able to. And I realized I wasn't gay. I wasn't romantically interested in men. This is just because of my abuse.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm not saying that's the case for all men that are gay or bi-curious or bisexual or whatever. Like, I'm just saying that that was my experience. And that's traumatizing in itself, that I put myself through those things
Yeah.
that I thought was okay, that I thought was normal, that I thought was accepted by myself, and it really wasn't. Like I've now got to live with those choices and actions based on the confusion created because of the choice and actions of someone else.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time when people come out as, you know, there's so many identities now, you can't keep track. You know, when people have all these identities, I think it's because they're lost
Yes.
more often than not. I think it's because they're lost, they're confused, they're misinformed, they're disinformed. Children are being taught things that they shouldn't be taught at such a young age. Like sex should be left to the family. Like yes, kids should be taught how to be safe, what a penis is, what vagina is, etc. But I don't want my niece, my goddaughter, my godson, or my children to ever be taught things in school that they shouldn't be taught, which to me is, you know, changing yourself and your identity. That is something you figure out yourself in your home. In your home,
Yeah.
it's not something that should be altered or manipulated or 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 deformed by a construct that society is telling us that's normal
Yeah.
when
I'm
it's
trying.
not.
Yeah. I I tried to relate to you what you just said. I relate to you through my own experiences, but in a
Yeah.
different way. And what I was taught that violence was love. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, the irony, mate. The
yeah.
irony. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I was, I remember when I was like 6, 7, 8, and 9, I used to go to school and I used to beat the shit out of my friends
Because that's what you were taught was
because I
love,
was
yeah.
taught that that was love. And it wasn't until I was, I think it was about 11, where the headmaster came into the school in front of the whole class and tore me down as a bully. And it completely and utterly traumatized me. But the reason I tell that story is in relation to the fact that you weren't taught how to love. You were taught what you were taught was okay, and
Yeah.
you punished yourself, but you weren't taught boundaries. You weren't taught sexual boundaries, and you were taken advantage of, which is a crime. That is a
Yeah.
betrayal.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
That is a crime against your innocence.
I was scared of men. I'm still scared of men. I'm still
Yeah,
scared of men. Like
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not as scared as I used to be. I can put my hands up. I've got a lot more confidence and a lot more presence and composure. But there are times where like I walk like even my men's groups, I know the men really well. Like I hug them, I spend time with them, I cry with them. Like we cry together, we're intimate with each other in the sense of like emotionally. Sometimes I am terrified to go to that men's group, mate. I'm terrified. And that's nothing to do with any of them. Like you say, there are some things that just don't heal. There are some things that you just have to work with for the
yeah.
rest of your life.
We can heal portions of it, and that's what you've done. But
Yeah.
the part that sets us free, that explosion of light, that joy, that returning of innocence, sometimes we have to go through that deep and honorable and long death process, and that does require exactly what you're doing, and that's working with the feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
100%.
yeah, and I just want to really honor you from what you've been through to come to where you are now at 26. That is such an achievement, Oliver. It's
Yeah.
really, really, honestly, I'm not just saying that. You probably find it difficult to hold yourself in that regard, but there aren't many men like that.
It's hard to admit that to yourself, you know. Like I hear it quite a lot. The one phrase that I hear a lot is, I wish I'd started my journey at your age. I wish I'd done this sooner. And like part of me is like, you know, I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, I'm doing it, and I am really proud of myself. But part of me is like, for fuck's sake, like I am I am in so much turmoil and pain all the time. And it feels like no matter how hard I try or what processes I put in place, or like even doing things like we're doing now, like I still like have that like awful like pit in my stomach of like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fuck it all up, you're gonna be exactly like your father, you're gonna be worse, and all this, that, and
Okay.
the other.
Okay. Well, Oliver, let's if you're willing to, let's go there
Yeah,
because
sure.
you, I know, I understand, and yeah, again, I honor you. You're really brave.
Oh, I
Uh,
really appreciate the space that you create. You know, like, I'm very thankful to have people like you in my life, Alistair. I really am.
it's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.